All right, coming to the stage now is one of DC's most diverse and accomplished acting and comedic talents. Along with Sean Westfall, he forms one of DC's most popular improv troupes called Shawn Michaels. He's an instructor, actor, comedian, storyteller, producer, and much more. Put your hands together for Mikael Johnson.
Give it up for Jamal and all the acts so far tonight. I was watching his dancers, and I had tried salsa dancing for about 5 minutes last week and couldn't get out of bed the next day. So I have a lot of respect for them. The story that I'm about to tell is a truncated version of a longer story, but the theme pretty much is about 10 years ago. I was 26, soon to be 27. Didn't know how to take care of myself yet. Living with my parents. Couldn't find a job, which was, unbelievable since I had a communications degree. I was really ashamed of where I was at. I'd meet girls at parties, and they'd ask me like where I lived, and I would say, I share a house with a married couple. And one girl actually called me out on it once. She's like, "So you live with your parents?" I was like, "Yeah, I live with my parents." But I ended up sort of streamlining the process, getting in trouble with the law. Ended up in a halfway house, and I was required to be there 90 days. And my counselor at the halfway house was like, "Mike, you have to change people, places, and things. And whatever you do, don't get into a relationship for a long time." And so on the 91st day, I moved in with a girl that I had met online. And that didn't work out. It was going okay for a while, but we started to fight like you do when you're living with someone that you've known for 15 minutes. And one day I was typing, and I was working on the great American novel or screenplay or whatever, and she was yelling at me and I was yelling back at her, and she stormed out. And the screenplay that I just happened to be writing about her, her name was Jerry, and it actually had a character named Jerry, just directly inspired from her. And so, in frustration and kind of venting, I decided to kill her off, and Jerry gets hit by a bus. And I just closed the computer, went away. About a couple days later, I come home, and Jerry's really not happy with what she's found on my journal, which I had most intelligently been keeping on her computer. And Jerry wasn't happy with the arc of her character. So we got into it, and long story short, I had to move out and find a place to live. I was working at a restaurant at the time, and I was venting about my current situation, and a coworker of mine, this guy named Dino, was like, "Douche, you could come live with me." My nickname, by the way, was Douche. I had started to call Dino Douche, and Dino was this Bosnian refugee, came over when he was 10, and he loved that word. And in fact, when I started calling him Douche, he loved it so much, he started calling me Douche, and pretty soon, for whatever reason, I became Douche. So he's like, "Douche, you can come live with me." And he was in college at the time, and he lived with 2 other guys that were in college. And I was thinking, yeah, you know what? I could do this. This is what I'll do. I'll go back to school. I can enroll in a master's program, and that's what I did. I enrolled in Frostburg State University's psychology, Masters of Psychology, because of the way things were going, I figured I was going to need a shrink. And I moved in with him, and I was like, yeah, I'll be like that Van Wilder guy, you know, or like Jeremy Piven on PCU, if you've ever seen that movie. You know, like the older kind of patriarch guy that, is a little bit too old to be there, but everyone respects, and he's kind of like this elder. And it kind of started out that way at first. Dino lived with two guys. One guy was named Chris. Chris was this tall, lanky, kind of soft-spoken guy, and when he was going to graduate college, he just wanted to open up a shop and sell incense, because I just like smells. Chris also liked orange. He had orange toothpaste, orange scented candles, and on the weekend he would sit around drinking orange Listerine. He had also like 4 cats. Dino's other roommate was Audie. Audie was also a kid from Bosnia and was a 65-year-old Slavic man, angry, trapped in a 21-year-old body. Audie would argue with anything and everything. I felt like if Audie ever came face to face with God, his first words to God would be, "Dude, what the fuck?" Audie would daily get into an argument with his mother on the phone. It's so much so that he had actually changed her name on the caller ID, so when she would call, it came up as "oh shit." The house was like a mess. I mean, there's that one kind of window in your life when you're allowed to live like a total slob, which is like 18 to 22. Every floor in the house that wasn't carpeted was sticky. When I first moved in there, I was like, Dino, when do we take out the trash? He was like, "Dush, I don't know. You know, we just take it out back." So I took this bag out back and I looked, and there were trash bags all along the wall of this house. It looked like sandbags fortifying a bunker. It was totally disgusting. My idea of like, oh, this was a good idea, quickly started to dissipate. And my self-esteem, already kind of shot, was slowly starting to plummet as well. They actually had thrown a party sort of in my honor when I first got there, and this kid actually came up to me, and I was talking to him. He's like, "Hey, dude, you're like that Van Wilder guy, you know, kind of older." And Dino like comes in like right in the middle of the conversation and is like, "No, this is douche," and everybody started like, "Douche, douche, 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 douche." So my nickname, I was just known as Douche. I was affectionately known as Douche, but the name like stung every time anyone called me that. So I've been living there for a while, just pretty much hating life. My 27th birthday comes. I'm like, the other thing about this house is that you could hear everything. I don't know, the way it was built, it was like every room was mic'd up, which meant that you could hear everyone having sex, which was all the time. Everyone was having sex but me. Even Chris was having sex. He had actually found a girl that he said it was like, and he came up to me one day, he's like, "You know, Becca likes orange too. She found orange flavored condoms." I'm like, "Chris, why do you need orange flavored condoms?" You know what, never mind, I don't care. So I was laying in bed, it was my 27th birthday, and I could hear downstairs Dino and Audie talking to each other. And Audie was like, "Dude, Dino, do you know it's Douche's birthday?" He's like, No, I didn't know. How old is he?" And I'll never forget the way Audie said this. "Dude, he's fucking 27." It was the first time in my life that I had felt 40. I felt just like everything underneath, all the weight of when he was like, "He's fucking 27." Like all that guilt, all that shame that I had been like sort of harboring was like acknowledged openly all of a sudden. So basically I continued living there. I finally met someone that I had known previously and was going to actually have a date one night. And I got off work and I got in, I stopped by the house to change, and the front door was locked, so I had to kind of crawl through the trash bags, through like around the back, and I thought I saw one of Chris's like cats like in there, and I was like in a good mood because I was going to go on a date. I was getting changed, and I was like, oh hey buddy, I'm just kind of hopping through, and then I see like this gray butt just kind of disappear in between these two trash bags. And right as it's disappearing, this green stream just it hits me in the face. And my first thought, I was like, can cats jump and pee at the same time? And then the smell hit. And I realized it wasn't a cat. It was a skunk. And if you ever go online and look up like what you do about rodent control as far as keeping skunks and raccoons away from your house, one of the first tips is to take out the fucking trash. So it starts to like burn, and it starts the stench is like so overwhelming that I knew that I was not going out with anyone that night. And my next thought is like, I guess I call 911. So I walk into the house and I'm like trying to push the stench away from my face as best I can. I'm like Steve Buscemi in Fargo when he gets shot in the face, and I'm like on the phone, and I call 911, and it's the 911 operator. It was the worst. This guy was the worst guy operator, 911 operator to have in this situation. He's like, 911, what's your emergency? And I'm like, I just got sprayed in the face by a skunk. And this was his reaction. Ew. And then he asked me, does it smell? Like if I would have called and my house would have been on fire, like, 911, what's your emergency? My house is on fire. Ew. Is it hot? I'm like, yes, it smells. He's like, well, do you need an ambulance? I don't know. I don't know. This is my first time, ever being just directly sprayed in the face by a skunk. He's like, hold on. I'm going to call the emergency room. So I'm just sitting there in the middle of this, like, kitchen, looking around, waiting for this guy to get back from talking to the emergency room. And I'm kind of like taking stock in my life, I'm 27. I'm living in filth. I'm not in college anymore. I'm living like I'm in a refugee camp. I have trash on the side of the house. The floor is sticky. There are pizza boxes everywhere. This is not charming anymore. And the thought comes over me is like, what have I been so afraid of? I could do this on my own, I don't need like 3 other roommates, to totally sort of like take my life in this direction. If I'm so afraid of failing at, living on my own, it's worth a shot. So the operator gets back online. He's like, gives me like this recipe which involved me bathing in tomato juice and vinegar for the entire night. I ended up actually going to a Days Inn to do the whole thing. The next day I called over to the house and I talked to Dino, and I was like, I had not told anybody about what had happened, and he's like, Douche, you'll never believe what happened last night. A fucking skunk ran through our house. I never had the heart to tell him. I got the first opportunity I had. I moved out. Very soon after that, I got my first place, and my first purchase is something that I still have today, which is like this industrial-sized steel trash can, and I think it's still my most prized possession. Thank you.